Welcome to the reading of the Sabbath School lesson for the second quarter of 2022. Welcome to Lesson 13 from the series on Genesis. It's titled Israel in Egypt, ready for teaching on June 25, and I'm Percy Harrold. Sunday, June 19. Jacob goes to Joseph. Read Genesis chapter 46. What is the significance of Jacob's departure from Canaan? Genesis 46, beginning at verse 1. So Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. Then God spoke to Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. So he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not fear to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation there. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again, and Joseph will put his hand on your eyes. Then Jacob arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried their father Jacob, their little ones and their wives, in the carts which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. So they took their livestock and their goods, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to Egypt, Jacob and all his descendants with him. His sons and his sons' sons, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all their descendants he brought with him to Egypt. Now these were the names of the children of Israel, Jacob and his sons, who went to Egypt. Reuben was Jacob's firstborn. The sons of Reuben were Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Simeon were Jemuel, Jamid, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul, the sons of a Canaanite woman. The sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Judah were Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. The sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamel. The sons of Issachar were Tola, Puvah, Job, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulun were Sered, Elon, and Jaleel. These were the sons of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob in Paddan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the persons, his sons and his daughters, were 33. The sons of Gad were Zephion, Haggai, Shunai, Esbon, Eri, Aradai, and Arelai. The sons of Asher were Jimnah, Ishua, Isui, Beriah, and Sarah, their sister. And the sons of Beriah were Heber and Malchiel. These were the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and these she bore to Jacob, 16 persons. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, were Joseph and Benjamin, and to Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bore to him. The sons of Benjamin were Bela, Becca, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Ehi, Rosh, Muppim, Hoppim, and Ard. These were the sons of Rachel, who were born to Jacob, 14 persons in all. The son of Dan was Hushim. The sons of Naphtali were Jaasiel, Gunai, Jezer, and Shillim. These were the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rachel his daughter, and she bore these to Jacob, 7 persons in all. All the persons who went with Jacob to Egypt, who came from his body, beside Jacob's sons' wives, were 66 persons in all. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Egypt, were 2 persons. All the persons of the house of Jacob who went to Egypt were 70. Then he sent Judah before him to Joseph to point out before him the way to Goshen, and they came to the land of Goshen. So Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to Goshen to meet his father Israel. And he presented himself to him, and fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said to Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen your face, because you are still alive. Then Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, I will go up and tell Pharaoh and say to him, My brothers and those of my father's house who were in the land of Canaan have come to me, and the men are shepherds, for their occupation has been to feed livestock, and they have brought their flocks, their herds, and all that they have. So it shall be when Pharaoh calls you and says, What is your occupation? That you shall say, Your servant's occupation has been with livestock from our youth even till now, both we and also our fathers, that you may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians. When Jacob leaves his place in Canaan, he is full of hope. The assurance that he will no longer be hungry and the good news that Joseph is alive must have given him the momentum that he needed to leave the promised land. Jacob's departure echoes the experience of Abraham, though in Abraham's case he was heading to the promised land. Jacob hears the same promise Abraham heard from God, namely that he will make him a great nation. We read that in verse 3 of chapter 46. But let's compare that with Genesis 12:2. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. God's call here also is reminiscent of God's covenant with Abraham. In both occasions, God uses the same reassuring words, do not fear, as he did in verse 3 in chapter 46, and we'll compare that with Genesis 15 verse 1. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, Do not be afraid, Abram, I am your shield, your exceedingly great reward, which carry the promise of a glorious future. The comprehensive listing of the names of the children of Israel who went to Egypt, including their daughters, in verse 47, his sons and his sons' sons, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all their descendants he brought with him to Egypt, recalls God's promise of fruitfulness to Abraham even when he was still childless. The number 70, including Jacob, Joseph, and his 2 sons, expresses the idea of totality. It is all Israel that goes to Egypt. It also is significant that the number 70 corresponds to the number of nations in Genesis chapter 10. And we read that earlier in this series of lessons, suggesting that the destiny of all the nations also is at stake in Jacob's journey. The truth will become more evident only many years later, after the cross and the fuller revelation of the plan of salvation, which, of course, was for all humanity everywhere, and not just for the children of Abraham. In other words, however interesting the stories are regarding this family, the seed of Abraham, and whatever spiritual lessons we can take from them, these accounts are in the Word of God because they are part of salvation history. They are part of God's plan to bring redemption to as many as possible on this fallen planet. And so to finish today, Romans 10 verses 12 and 13 reads, For there is no distinction between Jew and Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich to all who call upon him. For whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. What does Paul say here that shows the universality of the gospel? More important, what do these words say to us regarding what we as a church should be doing to help spread the gospel? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind, and It Is Written. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. Remember, God is always faithful.